The year is 1995. The office is quiet. Sunlight streams through the large window. It catches dust motes dancing in the air. The desk is oak, solid, the kind of desk that has seen generations of loans, generations of hope and foreclosure. A young man sits behind it, Mark Peterson, Vice President of Lending for the County Trust Bank. He's reviewing nominees for the State Farmer of the Year award. It's a formality. Usually the winner is obvious. The biggest operator, the one with the newest combines, the one with the most debt. He flips through a file. Jenkins, Sarah. He stops. He reads the first page again, then a third time. His pen hovers over the paper. It doesn't move. The numbers don't make sense. Acreage, 1,240 acres, all tillable, all owned outright. He looks at the next line, total liabilities, 0. He blinks, 0. Not a typo, not a missing page. He flips to the financials. Yields per acre, corn, 210 bushels. County average, 175. Yields per acre, soybeans, 72 bushels. County average, 58. Input costs per acre, 40% below conventional. He leans back in his leather chair. It groans. The sound is loud in the silent room. This isn't just a successful farm. This is impossible. He picks up the phone. He dials an internal extension. "Frank," he says, "can you come in here for a minute?" Frank Thompson is the bank's president now, an older man. He took over from the legend, Mr. Henderson, a decade ago. Frank walks in. "What is it, Mark?" Mark slides the file across the polished oak. "Look at this. The Jenkins file. Tell me what I'm missing." Frank picks it up. He doesn't even need to open it. A small smile touches his lips. "Ah, Sarah Jenkins, you're not missing anything." Mark points at the page. "No debt, Frank." How does a person run 1,200 acres with no debt? She hasn't taken a loan from this bank since, he checks the record, since never. Frank sits down. He looks out the window, towards the rolling hills north of town. Her land. "That's not quite true," he says. "She tried to get a loan once, a long time ago, in 1978. Mr. Henderson turned her down." The room is still. The dust motes continue their slow, silent dance. Mark looks at the file, at the impossible numbers. Then he looks at his boss. He turned her down? Why? Frank's smile is gone now. He said he was trying to protect her. He told her a single mother had no business trying to hold 600 acres. He told her it would ruin her. He told her to sell out, move to town, get a respectable job, for her own good. There is a gap in this story, a 17-year gap between a woman who was told she couldn't and a balance sheet that proves she did. This channel is for stories just like that one, the ones buried in county records, the ones whispered about at the grain co-op, the stories of people who were told no, and who spent the rest of their lives quietly, patiently, devastatingly proving the world wrong. If you believe those are the stories that matter, hit subscribe. Because what happened in those 17 years, and what happened after, changed more than just one woman's life. It changed the land itself. Let me tell you about the spring of 1978. It was a wet spring. The soil was black and heavy, the kind of mud that pulls your boots off. Sarah Jenkins was 28 years old. Her husband, Tom, had been gone for 6 months. A freak accident. A tractor rollover on a steep waterway. Fast. No time to say goodbye. He left her with 2 things. A 2-year-old son named Daniel, and 120 acres of good Iowa land. He also left her with a mortgage, a big one. Tom had liked new equipment. shiny green paint, the smell of diesel and debt. Sarah stood in the yard. Daniel held her hand. The house needed paint. The barn needed a new roof. The fields needed planting. She looked at the neighbor's land to the west, the Miller place, 480 acres. Old man Miller had died over the winter. His kids, who lived in the city, were selling it. The sign was already up. For sale. 480 acres that connected to hers. It was her one chance. With 120 acres, she'd be poor forever, struggling, selling off a piece every few years to survive. With 600 acres, she could make it work. She knew she could. She could achieve an economy of scale. She could pay down the debt. She could build a life for her son, right here, on this land. She had a plan. She spent 3 weeks on it, at the kitchen table, late at night, Daniel asleep in the next room. She used Tom's old ledgers, sharpened pencils, a simple calculator. She ran the numbers forward. She ran them backward. She created projections for commodity prices, for input costs, for yields. The plan was sound. It was tight, but it was sound. She put on her only good dress, the one she wore to church, and to Tom's funeral. She drove the old farm truck into town. She walked into the county trust bank. The air inside smelled of old paper and quiet money. Mr. Henderson's office was at the back. The door was open. He was a pillar of the community, deacon at the church, coached Little League for 20 years. He'd given Tom his first loan. He'd known Sarah's father her whole life. He was a good man. Everyone said so. He stood up when she came in. "Sarah, come in, child. Please, sit down." His voice was kind, concerned. He poured her a cup of coffee from a silver pot. "How are you holding up? How's that little boy of yours?" She answered his questions quietly. Then she laid her plan on his desk, the neat columns of numbers, the pages of projections. "I want to buy the Miller place, Mr. Henderson. I need a loan to make it happen." He picked up the papers. He put on his reading glasses. He read every page, slowly, carefully. The only sound was the ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner. When he was finished, he took his glasses off. He folded his hands on the desk. He sighed. A long, sad sigh. "Sarah," he said. His voice was gentle, like a father talking to a daughter. "This is a good plan. Your numbers are solid. If Tom had brought this to me, I'd have said yes in a heartbeat. But you're not Tom." She felt a cold knot in her stomach. He continued, "You're a widow, Sarah. You have a young son to raise. Farming this much land, it's a man's work. It's more than a man's work. It's brutal. The hours, the stress, the risk." He leaned forward. "I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen good men, strong men, lose everything. The weather turns. The market drops. A piece of equipment breaks at the worst possible time. I cannot, in good conscience, saddle you with this kind of debt. It would be irresponsible. It would be cruel." Her hands were cold. "I can do it," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I know you think you can," he said, "and I admire your spirit. I truly do. But I'm not going to be the man who lets you fail. I'm not going to be the reason you lose this farm. The farm that's been in your family for 3 generations. He had an alternative, a kind one. "Let me help you sell your 120 acres. We can get a good price for it. You can pay off Tom's debts, buy a nice little house in town, get a job at the courthouse maybe. Raise Daniel without this burden. You deserve a simpler life." He believed every word he was saying. He wasn't being cruel. He wasn't being malicious. He was a good man, trying to protect a grieving widow from what he saw as certain ruin. And that certainty was more devastating than any anger could ever be. Certainty delivered with kindness. It cannot be fought. It cannot be argued with. It can only be disproven, and that takes decades. She stood up. Her chair scraped on the floor. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Henderson." She walked out of the bank, into the bright spring sunshine. She didn't cry, not then. The tears would come later, in the dark, where no one could see. She drove home. The old truck rattled and shook. Each bump in the road felt like a judgment. Her father was waiting for her. He was sitting at the kitchen table, where he always sat. He was a man of few words, carved from the same tough soil he had worked his entire life. He looked at her face when she walked in. He didn't need to ask. He knew. She sat down across from him. The silence stretched. She told him everything. What Henderson had said, the kindness in his voice, the certainty in his eyes. "He sees a widow," she said. "He doesn't see me." Her father poured 2 glasses of water from the tap. He pushed one across the table to her. He looked at her hands, calloused, strong. The same hands her mother had, the same hands her grandfather had. He finally spoke. His voice was rough, like gravel. "Henderson is a banker. He knows numbers. He doesn't know dirt. He sees your husband's dead. He doesn't see your grandfather's fences still standing after 50 years. He sees a single woman. He doesn't see your mother's mind, the one that could calculate crop yields in her head. He thinks he's protecting you from the risk. He doesn't understand. The dirt isn't the risk. The dirt is the only thing that's real." He looked out the window, at the 120 acres. "They took everything from us in the 30s. The banks, the drought, everything, except the dirt. The dirt is enough, Sarah. It's always been enough." That was all he said. It was all he needed to say. The words settled into her. Not a comfort, a foundation, something to build on. The dirt is enough. That night she made a decision, a quiet one. She would not ask for permission again, from anyone. Ever. She would not depend on a loan. She would not depend on a banker's approval. She would depend on the dirt, and on herself. The next morning she got to work. The first thing she did was sell the new John Deere 4440 tractor, Tom's pride and joy. It brought a good price. Enough to pay off the equipment loan and a piece of the mortgage. The neighbors watched the flatbed truck haul it away. They whispered, "She's selling out," just like Henderson said she would. But she wasn't selling out. She was buying her freedom. 2 weeks later, another truck came down her lane. It unloaded an Alice Chalmers 190XT, a 20-year-old tractor, faded orange paint, dented fenders. She paid for it with cash. It was smaller, it was older, but it was hers. No payments, no interest, no lien holder. She spent the next week in the machine shed. With a set of greasy manuals and Tom's old tools, she learned every bolt, every gasket, every hydraulic line. She taught herself how to fix it, because she knew she couldn't afford to pay anyone else to. Have you ever been told you couldn't do something? Not by an enemy, but by a friend. By someone who genuinely believed they had your best interests at heart. Someone who wanted to protect you from failure. It's a strange kind of cage. One built with kindness and concern. Tell me about it in the comments. Because this is where Sarah's story really begins. Not with a loan, but with a refusal. And what happened next was a masterclass in quiet defiance. She didn't just change her tractor, she changed everything. She couldn't compete with the big farms on scale, she knew that. They had more acres, bigger equipment, deeper lines of credit. So she decided not to compete on their terms. She would compete on hers. She started reading, late at night at the kitchen table, after Daniel was asleep, after the chores were done. She read old books, the Farmer's Almanac from the 1940s, Louis Bromfield's Malabar Farm. She read new books, scientific journals from the University Extension, research papers on soil microbiology. She was looking for a third way, not the chemical-heavy industrial model of her neighbors, and not a simple return to the past, but a blend, old wisdom and new science. She stopped farming fence row to fence row. She started planting cover crops in the fall, clover and rye, to hold the soil in place, to build organic matter. The neighbors shook their heads. She's planting weeds, wasting money. She stopped using the moldboard plow, the tool that every farmer used to turn the soil over. It was tradition. It was what your father taught you to do. Instead, she started practicing conservation tillage, leaving the crop residue on the surface. The neighbors talked at the co-op. She's lazy, doesn't even plow her fields right. Her fields looked messy, unkempt, not the clean, black lines of her neighbors' fields. But something was happening underneath the surface, something they couldn't see. The soil structure was changing. It was becoming more alive. Earthworms returned. The soil could hold more water. When it rained hard, the water soaked in. It didn't run off, taking her topsoil with it. Her input costs plummeted. She was buying less diesel because she was making fewer passes over the field. She was buying less synthetic fertilizer because the cover crops were fixing nitrogen in the soil. Her yields didn't drop. They held steady. The first year. The second year. By the third year, they started to creep up. Slowly, but surely. The contrast math was simple. Her neighbors were spending more and more each year on chemicals and fuel just to maintain their yields. She was spending less and less, and her yields were improving. Her profit margin per acre was double theirs. They didn't see it. They only saw the old tractor, the messy fields, the woman they thought was failing. One afternoon she was in the field, trying to fix the planter. A chain had broken. She was covered in grease and frustration. A truck pulled up. It was Old Man Hemlock. He farmed the section to her east. A man even older than her father. He got out, didn't say a word, walked over, looked at the broken chain, went back to his truck and came back with a toolbox. He had it fixed in 10 minutes. She tried to thank him. He just grunted. "My wife makes a good rhubarb pie," he said. "Drop one by sometime." He was the first to see past the rumors, the first to offer help, not pity. He became her ally. He never offered advice, but sometimes a spare part would show up on her porch, or he'd mention a piece of equipment for sale cheap at an auction. He never said he believed in her, he just acted like it, and that was more than enough. In the fall of 1981, 3 years after the bank said no, a small parcel of land came up for sale, 40 acres. It bordered her property on the north side. It was rough ground, but it was for sale. She didn't go to the bank. She didn't make a plan to show a loan officer. She drove her old truck into town. She walked up to the teller window. The same bank, different desk. She made a withdrawal from her savings account. Then she went to the courthouse. She bought the 40 acres. Cash. The woman who couldn't handle the debt of 600 acres now owned 160. Free and clear. It was a beginning. And the decades montage was about to start. Let me tell you about the next few years, because this is where the story starts to accelerate. This is where the quiet work begins to compound. The year is 1983. A neighboring farm goes into foreclosure. The bank is selling it off in pieces. An 80-acre parcel comes up for auction. Sarah is there. She stands at the back. She doesn't draw attention to herself. The bidding is slow. Most farmers are stretched thin. Commodity prices are low. She waits. She lets the others bid themselves out. Then she raises her hand. One bid. Clean. Final. Sold. To Sarah Jenkins. 80 acres. Cash. She now owns 240 acres. The talk at the co-op changes. The whispers are different now. It's not pity anymore. It's confusion. How is she doing it? Where's the money coming from? They don't understand her math. Because they're all trapped in the cycle of debt. Borrow in the spring to plant, hope the prices are high enough in the fall to pay it back, and have a little left over. Sarah has broken the cycle. She has no spring operating loan. The money she makes is hers. 1985. Her son, Daniel, starts kindergarten. He gets on the school bus in the morning. Sarah stands on the porch and waves. The little boy who was 2 when his father died. The reason she was told to sell. The reason she was told to quit. That same year, another 120 acres go up for sale. She buys it. Cash. She now owns 360 acres. Every acre paid for. Every acre productive. Every acre hers. Mr. Henderson sees her in town sometimes, at the grocery store, the post office. He is always polite, always asks about Daniel, always has that same kind, concerned look in his eyes, as if he's still waiting for her to fail, still waiting to be proven right. He drives past her farm. He sees the old orange tractor. He sees the messy fields. He sees the new grain bins she had built, paid for with cash. The numbers don't add up in his head. He runs a bank. He understands leverage. He understands debt as a tool for growth. He does not understand this slow, patient, relentless accumulation, this freedom from the system he controls. It is a language he does not speak. 1987. A piece of the original Miller farm comes up for sale. The 480 acres she was denied. The kids have broken it up to sell. The first parcel is 160 acres, the best land. The piece that lays right next to her original farmstead. She walks into the real estate office. She makes an offer. A fair price, no contingencies, no financing needed. The offer is accepted that afternoon. 160 acres, cash. She now owns 520 acres. She is not done. 1990. She buys another piece of the Miller farm, 200 acres, cash. She now owns 720 acres, more than the 600 she had asked the bank for 12 years earlier. She has done it without a single dollar of debt. She has done it while raising a son. She has done it while the entire farm economy around her struggles. The quiet witness, the doubter watching from a distance. Mr. Henderson is retired now, but he still lives in the same house, still goes to the same church, still reads the county newspaper. He sees her name in the property transfer records, week after week, year after year. Sarah Jenkins from Sarah Jenkins, no bank listed, no mortgage recorded. He feels something he can't quite name. It isn't anger. It isn't regret. It's a slow, creeping sense of bewilderment. The feeling of a man who was certain about the way the world worked, and is now watching that world be dismantled, piece by piece, acre by acre, by the very person he was sure he understood, the person he was trying to protect. Then comes the drought of 1992. It starts in the spring, a dry May, a dusty June. By July, the corn is curling. The leaves are turning a sickly yellow-green. The ground is cracked and hard, like concrete. The air is hazy with dust. The ponds are drying up. The creeks are down to a trickle. It is the kind of drought that breaks people. The farmers who are leveraged to the hilt, the ones who borrowed big in the 80s. They are in trouble. Their crops are failing. They have no income. But their loan payments are still due. The bank is not forgiving. Foreclosure notices start to appear, like ugly flowers blooming in the dust. The mood in the county is desperate, angry, afraid. But something is different at Sarah's farm. Her corn is not thriving, but it is surviving. The leaves are stressed, but they are still green. Her soybeans are shorter than usual, but they are setting pods. The reason is simple. It is the soil. 14 years of cover crops, 14 years of no-till, 14 years of building organic matter. Her soil is a sponge. It has held on to the winter moisture. It has soaked up every drop of the few rains they did get, while her neighbor's soil is baked clay. The water ran off, taking their future with it. Her farm is an island of green in a sea of brown. Mr. Henderson hears the stories. He is on the bank's advisory board, a courtesy position for the retired president. He sits in the meetings. He hears the names of the families losing their farms the bank has held the note on for generations. He hears the loan officers talking about Sarah Jenkins. Her yields are down, they say, but she'll still have a crop, a profitable crop, while everyone else is facing a total loss. He can't stand it anymore. The not knowing, the not understanding. One afternoon he gets in his car. He drives out of town, down the dusty gravel roads. He pulls into her lane, the same lane he had expected to see a for sale sign in all those years ago. The farmstead is neat. The house is painted. The barn has a new tin roof. Everything is in its place, a testament to years of steady work. He finds her in the machine shed. She is working on the old Alice Chalmers. Grease on her hands, her hair tied back. She is older now, lines of sun and worry around her eyes. But her back is straight, her movements are sure. She looks up when he walks in. She is not surprised to see him. She wipes her hands on a red rag. "Mr. Henderson," she says. Her voice is even, not welcoming, not hostile, just a statement of fact. He stands there for a moment, unsure of what to say. The man who was always so certain, so sure of his advice. "Sarah," he starts. His voice is hoarse. I don't understand." He gestures vaguely towards the fields. "Everyone else is burning up. The bank is... We're taking back farms we've financed for 50 years. How did you do this?" She looks at him, a long, steady look. She sees a man who has grown old, a man defeated by the very system he mastered. She thinks of all the years, the struggle, the doubt, the whispers, the loneliness of proving someone wrong who thinks they are being kind. It is the loneliest fight there is. She finally speaks. Her voice is quiet, devastating in its simplicity. "You told me I couldn't handle the debt." He nods. "I did. I thought I was helping." She holds his gaze. "You were right, Mr. Henderson. I couldn't have. So I never took any." The silence in the machine shed is absolute. He has no answer for that. There is no answer. It is the simple, unassailable truth. He had drawn a line in the sand. He had built a cage of kindness and low expectations, and she had simply walked around it. She had built her own world, with her own rules, where the only thing that mattered was the dirt and the work. He just stands there, a witness to a victory he can't even comprehend. He finally turns and walks away, an old man, shrunken by a truth he never saw coming. The reckoning was not loud, it was not angry, it was quiet, and it was final. But that's not the end of the story. Because a legacy is not about what you acquire, it's about what you create for others. Daniel came home after 4 years at Iowa State with a degree in agronomy. He came back not to take over, but to partner. He brought new ideas: precision agriculture, GPS mapping, soil grid sampling. He didn't discard his mother's methods, he integrated them. He used technology to enhance her wisdom, the new science and the old ways. Together, they bought more land, expanding to the 1,240 acres that the young banker would one day marvel at. Every piece bought with cash. They became a model in the state. Farmers came to tour their operation. University researchers set up test plots in their fields. They were proving at scale that a different kind of agriculture was not only possible, it was more profitable, more resilient, more sustainable. In 2002, they did something else. They established a scholarship, the Jenkins Family Agriculture Grant. It wasn't for the student with the best grades or the star quarterback. It was for the student with a plan to come back to the community, to start a business, to farm in an innovative way, to do something different. The scholarship application had one unusual question on it. Describe a time someone told you that you couldn't do something for your own good, and tell us what you did next. They gave out the first scholarship to a young woman who wanted to start a direct market vegetable farm. Everyone told her she was crazy, that you couldn't make a living on 20 acres. Sarah saw something in her eyes, a familiar fire. Today, that farm supplies produce to restaurants and farmers markets across 3 counties. The legacy rule. A triumph is not individual, it is systemic. Sarah mentored young farmers, especially women. She would have them over to her kitchen table, the same table where she had planned her impossible dream. She would look at their business plans. She would listen to their stories of doubt, of being dismissed. She never told them what to do. She just told them her own story. And then she would say, "The dirt is enough. Believe in the dirt, and believe in your hands." The ripple effect spread. A small stone dropped in a pond in 1978, creating waves decades later, changing the landscape, changing lives. Today, if you drive north of that small Iowa town, you will see it, the Jenkins farm. It doesn't look like the other farms. The fields are a patchwork of different crops. There are strips of wildflowers for pollinators. There are windbreaks of trees. It looks alive. Sarah is old now. Her hands are gnarled with arthritis. But she still walks the fields. She still runs her fingers through the rich, dark soil. The kitchen table is still there, the heart of the farm. On it sits a ledger, the one from 1978. Its pages are yellowed and soft. Her granddaughter, a young woman now, sometimes takes it out. She traces the neat columns of numbers, the small, hard-won profits, the slow, steady march from 120 acres to something more. She looks at the physical artifact of her family's story, proof that the most powerful things are built slowly, quietly, without permission. She looks at her grandmother sitting by the window, and she understands. She understands the long game. The story of Sarah Jenkins is not just about farming. It's not just about money. It's about a fundamental truth. The most dangerous limitation is the one imposed by someone who genuinely believes they are protecting you. Certainty, not cruelty, is the real enemy of potential. Right now, somewhere in the world, a good person is telling someone they can't. A banker, a teacher, a parent, a friend. They are saying it with kindness. They are saying it with concern. They are saying it for your own good. They are building a cage of protection, and they are wrong. The gap between what others decide for you and what you can actually do is the space where your life is forged. That is the story we tell here. The story of people who lived in that gap and built an empire there. If this story means something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who is standing in front of a kind person being told no. And subscribe for more stories of quiet, devastating victory, because the world is full of them. You just have to know where to look.